Hey, it's Dave. Welcome back to my channel. So today I've been on a Steely Dan kick, so I figured I would do Reelin' in the Year since my band does it, and it's a fun song. There's a million people out there teaching you how to play it. You don't need to learn it from me. In fact, I'm not even sure. Most of the stuff I play note for note. I'm not even sure there's a section where I might, because I played it so many times, I haven't gone back to listen to it, so I might vary different from the record exactly, but I'm not sure. Like I said, I haven't listened to it and gone back to it in such a long time, but I just played it from how I play it every week. It's funny. So I was on the web looking at some YouTube videos, and I stumbled across a video of a guy talking about tone. And he says, I think the video is called "Tone is a Lie," and it's very funny because he's spot on. A lot of people sit there and will message me, and even like closer friends will be like, "What are you using to record on this stuff?" And I'm like, "I'm using a Fender. I think it's a Mustang 2 version 2 that I'm plugging USB." And the real trick to it is I have to set there's a little bit of latency when I'm playing to, like, I just played to a backing track that's on YouTube. So because the YouTube track is so on my computer in real time, and then I gotta play and I'm listening to it, and then I'm playing and I gotta go through the Mustang, there's latency. So I add latency to the YouTube track. So to that track coming in, and I'm using OBS, this OBS 20.01, something like that, 2.1, whatever it is. But I have to add latency, so I'm adding, like, I think 158 milliseconds of latency. So when it comes back, I'm playing it and it's in the same time as I played it in. But what I usually try to do is try to make the thing sound like the record, or what I remember the record sounding like. And when you listen to, like, these amps and you listen to stuff, you always think to yourself, like, so many people are like tone chasers, and they're chasing a certain tone, and they're chasing it that's in their head, of what they think the perfect guitar tone should be. And the perfect guitar tone isn't necessarily the perfect guitar tone that you're going to have in a mix. So, like, a lot of times people will play, and I have a lot of pedals on my board. Now, I also have a dual rectifier where I just play straight in, and, I also have the orange channel, which is light gain, and then I have the clean, and then I use, like, a pedal. I have a Timmy, and I have something else I can't remember now off the top of my head. Maybe an Animal, whatever I'm using. It's just I'm using, like, a light drive in the other channel if I need that other sound, like that. Slightly overdriven, but not even to an orange channel sound yet. But on my Fender Hot Rod Deluxe board that I go out and gig with, I have a ton of pedals, and the reason why I have a ton of pedals is I look at it like a painter with his palette. We're doing a lot of cover songs, so if I hear, like, that 80s Marshall, I'm using the JHS Angry Charlie. If I hear, like, more of a 70s Marshall that's not so overdriven, but much more like the Plexi sound, but before, not the Plexi Brown sound that everyone chases, that Van Halen sound, but more like that Plexi, pardon the expression, middle of the road, Marshall sound, I'll use the Boiling Point by Rockbox, which I keep the left switch up, the right switch down, and it just gives me that great sound. Now, if I wanted something like a 70s or late 60s Fender, I'll put on my AC booster, and I get that bright boost, and I get that sound. If I want, like, a Vox, an overdriven Vox AC15, AC30, I use my Paisley drive. So I'm using, like, all these different drives. When I have, like, a Black Cat Super Fuzz, if I want to do the Smashing Pumpkins fuzz sound. I have the Mike Vickery's the Vic Audio Ram's Head 73 Ram's Head if I want that Gilmore And you can look on my video for the when I did the Gilmore thing. It's that sound that he has like in the solo for the final cut, that real fuzz sound. And I could probably get away with using less, but if I got to put a board together, well, why not? I mean, it just makes more sense to go out there and have it sound like it. The other thing is if I have to do sessions and somebody's looking for a certain sound, I can call it up. Um, a thing with me with pedals was I grew up, in Massachusetts, as you can probably hear in my accent, and I'm back here temporarily. When I started playing guitar, you know, um, I was trying to learn all the technical stuff. So I wasn't really into the pedals. I didn't really get into the technical gear stuff. I played a simple guitar with one pickup, and I would plug into like a dual rectifier, and that was my sound. It was that simple. I was doing original material, so it's easier to get away with that. But what ended up happening is I went and I did a session. I was in Los Angeles. I had just moved. I'd probably been there 3 or 4 years, and I worked for a couple of different producers doing sessions. And I worked for this one guy, and we were doing something, and I think it was for Mission Impossible 2. And I had to come in and do like the heavy guitar part for the gang 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 gang, that whole section. And he wanted me to stick around to watch this other guitar player that was coming in. And this other guitar player comes in. He has this huge, I mean, compared to what I have today, it still dwarfed my board. I mean, his board was ridiculous. I mean, I think it had every pedal that I've ever even heard of at the time. And I wasn't really that knowledgeable. And he came in, he was doing a lot of atmospherics. There was a lot of cool stuff going on. And the producer said to me, if you had a board like this, I would have had you do a double session. This would have been your gig. And boy, did that open my eyes, because, I mean, when you're going and you're doing sessions, you're not really doing like the toughest things. They're basically calling for your not even for your creativity, but half the time it's probably just to go in and do some basic stuff. You're just like the guy. You're the stunt dick. And then the other times you're going in sometimes, and it's not enough, where they actually want you to do your thing. So I started getting into pedals and whatnot. So now, like, I have this board, I can go in and do any amount of session. I got a ghost back there that's messing with that light, obviously. And there it goes. Hey, you heard me. So, so I was doing like all these, I doing all these sessions, and I got into using pedals and getting sounds. And, I tell people, because a lot of people on the East Coast, it's a lot different than the West Coast. When you're on the West Coast and you pull out a pedal board, everyone comes running over to look what you got, and they're asking you questions, and how does it work, and how's it sound compared to this pedal, and everyone's interested in getting sounds because that's what they do for work. And when you do it on the East Coast, they're like, I just plug straight into an amp. Yeah, I know you do. That's why you sound like you do, and that's why you don't get called. That's why I'll never lose a gig to you, because you think it's about just going in and not caring what you sound like. I tell people the pedals are not for me. They're for you. They're for the listener. It takes a certain level of a player. I love people that think like effects. They're like, oh, that's That's cheating. What the hell are you talking? Well, same with capos. Oh, I don't use a capo. That's cheating. Really? Because if I'm producing something and I want to hear that voicing, if you think it's cheating, you're off the gig. I don't care. Like, I'm music's not about your ego. It's not about how good you think you are. It's about the song and doing what's best for the song. If the song needs a chorus in it, or a flanger, I mean, like, listen to those Police records, like Walking on the Moon, that flanger sound where he has it just like enough that almost sounds like a chorus, but it's a flanger, it's the Electric Mistress. I mean, thing sounds fantastic. That's not for him to play because he thinks it sounds cool. It's because that's what it sounds, that's what the record should sound like. Getting back to the tone being a myth, you need to fit into a mix, so like if you hear a sound and you hear a guitar player play, and you're listening to a band and you hear him cutting through the mix, well, if the band stopped playing, that guitar sound might not be the sound you really love, but it fits in with what's going on. And so that's something to think about. It's really not like how you think something sounds outside of a mix, but where it sits in the mix and how it feels. And I mean, there's so much nonsense. So this guitar here, is made, like I said, in Indonesia, whatnot. The wood, I mean, this thing could be fake wood for all I know. It looks real, feels good, but who knows what it's made out of, and who cares? It doesn't affect the way the instrument sounds. I couldn't tell you if this nut was bone, plastic, or made out of unobtainium from the movie Avatar. I have no idea what the hell this nut is made out of. I haven't even looked at it for more than a second. But it sounds the damn same as anything else. I mean, you can't hear it coming through here. And these people that sit there on the web and they sit there and tell you, well, this is a bone nut and this nut is seated properly and this, yeah, it should seat properly because it looks better, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't affect the way the instrument sounds when you plug it in. Yes, it matters how it sounds right now because I'm playing it acoustically, and everything matters acoustically. So go play the LA Forum without an amp and play a guitar, and then tell me how important the wood of your guitar is. But the second you're gonna plug in and go through an amplifier, shut up. It doesn't matter. And as far as like pickups, all these guys like, I like these pickups and look, if you like noise canceling, get noise canceling. If you don't, don't. But for the most part, if they're in the book, like if you're gonna get pickups for whatever reason, make sure it's for the right reason. Like you don't like the way it sounds in your rig, and then do something about it. Because for the most part, if it sounds good in your rig, that's what your sounds are all based on. So the second you go and you change the pickups, now everything in your whole system is going to sound different. And just be aware of that. It's like I'm very aware. Like I found a set of pickups that I really like. I love the DiMarzio Area pickups. So it's an Area 58 in the neck in the middle I use, and I use a Pro 54 DiMarzio in the bridge. And I use it on everything. I mean, anything that I can to do it. And then I have one guitar that has a transition humbucker, and then I have a Fred, and I love those two humbuckers. But they all keep somewhat the same type of vibe. These are the MFD pickups by G&L, and I have it in my G&L, and I love them as well. They're great sounding pickups. As long as your rig sounds good, the pickup should sound good. A lot of these guys, they go on there and they're like changing pickups, and then they're showing you on YouTube, and then I love people's comments. Oh, I think these ones are more clear. Really? Like, so what? I just get a kick out of, like, everyone has an opinion. Unless you're the guy playing them, you can't tell me if you like them or not. Because the second that you go put it through your rig, it's going to sound completely different. It's not even going to sound like the same pickup. You got and I've done enough ridiculing of Schnobel and Curtis Kent or whatever his name is, but it's like, these guys are playing, let me check the next pedal. It gets to the point where that clicking noise of the pedal starts to drive me nuts in their videos because I find it more interesting than their actual video. But, in general, your sound is going to be your sound coming through your rig. That's your sound. So it's like, when I first started getting into Strats, I was really into like the Fender amps. And so now it's all I play is Fender amps, really. I wouldn't call this Mustang a Fender amp. It's not what I mean, but you know what I mean. But anyway, so, it's like dialing in your sound. I really just wanted to say, that your tone, be conscious of what your tone sounds like in the mix. There's too many times I go see a band and I hear, and it's like both guys, the bass player keeps getting louder, and then the guitar player keeps getting louder, and then the bass player keeps getting louder. And what this is these get two guys that are jumping on each other's frequencies. And instead of the bass player EQing his sound so he sits separate from the guitar, and the guitar player sitting separate from them, no one cares. They just, look, this is my sound. And I worked with this one guy, and he probably doesn't watch these videos, and if he does, good on him. But it's like, I worked with a bass player that always was too loud. And when I asked him about it and tried to EQ his sound, he'd be like, no, but I like my sound like, yeah, of course you do. Well, why even have a band here? Because you just like your sound to be how you want it to be for your bedroom. But we're playing here in a band, and when you stand out in the audience, it sounds like shit. But, some people, there's a lot of Dunning-Krugers out in the world that are the experts and know everything. instead of standing out. They never step out though to hear it because they don't need to. I don't need to hear that. I can hear it right here from the stage. I sound great. Of course you do. Anyways, one of the things we love to do, we love to chase tone, and that's really, like what everyone thinks they're all about, their tone chases. And then it's like, they just came back out with those super amps. You take a telly and crank it through that super amp, most people are going to be like, oh, that's really bright. That's not the sound That's the Led Zeppelin sound on Zeppelin 2. I mean, that's part of it. That's why they sound as great as they sound, because when you put it in the mix, it's fucking fantastic. It's awesome, So just be a little conscious. Look, I'm not trying to knock anybody down, and I'm not trying to lift anybody up. Well, maybe I am trying to lift somebody up. You really just take the time and listen to the mix of what you're playing, and have open ears and listen to the full band and not just to what you're doing. And you should like the sound, Anyways, it's getting a little late, and I have a student tonight, so very good.
You hit the nail right on the head with your comments, what you're saying today. You're right on target. You're right on the money, everything you said.